Myself, Dr. K.Rajender, working as guest faculty in Botany, Telangana Tribal Welfare Residential College, Main Karimnagar. First, I would like to thank Telangana Tribal Welfare Residential Education Institution Society, Hyderabad, for organizing such competitions. You know very well that in these pandemic days, all our teaching reverted towards the online mode. In future also, this will gain importance. It is essential to improve online technological skills for the both students and teacher community. Regarding this type of competition will be helpful to the both student community and teacher community. And I hope the institute will encourage such type of competition in future also. So see here, in this regard, today we are going to discuss about the biodiversity. Biodiversity is not an old subject. It is very recent subject, emerged as a separate branch or topic in 1980s. In our routine life, we encounter such words like biodiversity conservation, endangered species, threatened species, like all these words through internet or newspaper or television. That means this subject or this topic has most importance in our routine life, in our daily life. You know very well that the biodiversity park present in the Hyderabad, which was inaugurated on the event of Convention on Biodiversity in the 2012 held in Hyderabad. Convention which was attended. The Convention of Biodiversity is a global meeting which was attended by all the heads of the nations. So that means the biodiversity has more importance. The biodiversity or conservation of biodiversity is not a problem of only India. It is the problem of all over the world. That means it is a global problem. So, in this regard, today we are going to discuss what is the importance of biodiversity, its meaning, its levels in simple words. Let us see what is the biodiversity. So, see here, the biodiversity, meaning, levels, and its importance. Today we are going to discuss this topic, which is present in the BSc Botany Semester 5, Paper 6, in the jurisdiction of under the jurisdiction of Shadavahana University. So before entering into the topic, I would like to explain few things in simple words about biodiversity. So see here, on the planet, we are not only the single organisms living, we are living along with all the animals, sorry, different types of animals, different types of plants, and different types of microorganisms. So, what is the importance of all these organisms on the earth, or what is its role in the nature? You should remember that every organism should have its own role in the nature. every organism, even though it is a microorganism, or even though it's a mammalian species, or even though it is an algal species, every species has its own role in the nature. I will explain simple example. You know very well that generally the rats eat grains as their food. The population of rats increase very rapidly. I think this point is, very well. The rats are eaten by the snakes. What happens if there is no snakes on the globe, on the earth? What happens? So see here, the rats eat 2 by third of the agriculture productivity. If there is no rats, if there is no rats, the rats eat 2 by third of the global agriculture productivity. That means there will be scarcity for other organisms or other species on the earth. They will disappear from the earth. They will disappear from the earth due to the lack of food. So there is much importance. So here what the snakes are doing? Here the snakes are controlling the population of rats. That means the snakes are playing a vital role in the controlling of the population of rats. That means they are indirectly helping the food security for other animals which are living along with rats. So this is the simplest example. What is the importance of different types of species on the earth? Let us we go into the topic. So see here. First, we will look about the biodiversity meaning. So bio means life. You know very well that bio means life, and living means. So see here, diversity. Diversity means variety. Diversity means variety. Bio means life. Simply, we can say biodiversity means the diversity in the living organisms. The diversity in the living organism. Come to the second point. So, whatever the organisms present in the terrestrial, marine, or aquatic environment, all comes under the biodiversity. So, see here what he said. Biodiversity means the variety and variability among all living organisms, wherever they can live, wherever they live, in the terrestrial environment or marine environment or aquatic environment, whatever the environment. So see here, the diversity. So example, I will explain here. So terrestrial, marine. So what is the difference in between these two environments? So generally the terrestrial flora and fauna, the aquatic flora and fauna is different. So that means the terrestrial organisms are different, animals are different, and trees are different. Generally, we may find different types of dogs, cats on the terrestrial environment. So in the aquatic environment, the living things are different. So they totally depends on the water for their living, for their life. So example, the fish, the tortoise, the crocodile. So there is a variation in the diversity of living forms in accordance with the living environments or ecosystem. We may call it as the ecosystems. So see here, The maintaining diversity, okay, the maintaining diversity is a characteristic or property of nature, the characteristic or property of nature. So see here, one of the best definition of the biodiversity is the structural and functional variety of life forms at genetic, population, and community and ecosystem level. So you know very well that the structural, what in the definition, what is in the definition, the structural and functional variety. You know very well that we are living. So see here in the on the terrestrial environment, there are different types of animals are present. Their appearance are different. Their food habits are different. Their their habitat is different. Their shelter is different. So see here, all species show diversity at genetic, at population level, at community level, at ecosystem level. We will discuss deeply about these things in our next slides. Now we will see a brief history of the biodiversity. As I explained, the diversity, the biodiversity is very recent subject. The word biological diversity is coined or first introduced by Thomas Loja. Its short form or its contracted form, that is the biodiversity. The contracted form of the biological diversity is the biodiversity, which was coined by the Walter G. Rosen in 1985. So let us we see what we will going to read in the biodiversity. What is the aim of the biodiversity? So see here, generally, we will, we will see, we will see the number of species in the animals, in the plants, and in the microorganisms under the biodiversity. We will count the numbers, how many species are present in the plants or how many species are present in the animals and how many species are present in the microorganisms. So this is the concept of biodiversity. This is the general concept of biodiversity. In general, we will learn about the number of species. We will learn number of species in different animals, plants, and microorganisms. So this is the broad area of the biodiversity. So let us go into the see in this slide. So this is a simple slide which depicts what is the biodiversity with a simple. So see here the living organisms present on the earth which constitute the biodiversity. The living organisms which live on the earth constitute the biodiversity. So this is the simplest picture to explain the biodiversity in simple example. You may find different types of birds, different types of animals, different types of insect in this picture. There are also different types of plants. So this picture explains the simplest form of biodiversity. So see here, we will see, as we discussed earlier, we will see how, what are the species generally we will count in the biodiversity. We will see the how many number of species are present in the biodiversity on the earth at the global level, at our country level. Let's we see what are the species present in our environment. So see here. So this graph explains how many species are present, number of estimated species. So see here, it is very difficult to count all the species on the earth because 1/3 of the land is occupied by the marine environment. So see here, there is a large scope, there is a heavy scope for the presence of different types of species in the aquatic environment, that is the marine environment, because it occupies 1/3 of the land, 1/3 of the planet. So there is a much probability of a presence of different species in the aquatic environment when compared with the terrestrial environment. Let us see. Let us see what are the different types of forms present here. So see here in this picture, here it occupies. So see here, it here occupies 61% of the arthropods. Arthropods, you know very well that in the arthropods, it is the largest phylum in the animal planet. So see here, insects occupies 50,000 species. Insect occupies 50,000 species. So see here, 15% are occupied by the green plants, 15% is occupied by the green plant. So major, that is the arthropods and the plants occupied majority part of the biodiversity. That means most of the species are present in these two categories only. I will explain one thing that according to the IUCN, International Union of Conservation of Natural Resources. So see here, according to the IUCN, the number of species are present on the earth. That is the documented species number. Okay, documented species means identified number. The identified numbers are 1.5 millions yet identified. 1.5 million species are identified and noted. But according to Robert May, there is a probability. He estimated that there is 7 billion species are there, which includes both plants, animals, and all other microorganisms. So there is a much scope in this aspect to identify new species in the animal and in the plants and in the microorganisms. So see here, 7 million species are estimated on the earth. Only 1.5 million species are identified earth. So see here, these are the flora. So that means angiosperm, gymnosperm, pteridophyte, bryophyte, fungi, algae, and bacteria. This is the fauna, that means the insect, invertebrate, fish, birds, reptile, and amphibians which are present on the earth. So these are the species worldwide. Next, we will see in Indian scenario what are the species are present here. What are the species are present here? So before going to Indian scenario, so there is a angiospermic species number is here. So see here how many number of angiosperm species are present in different countries. Let us we see how many numbers are there. So see here Brazil. So see here Brazil, which occupies majority number of angiosperms. That means the Brazil has rich diversity. The Brazil has rich biodiversity. So next we see here how many types of angiosperms, how many species of angiosperms are present in different countries. So India is also a largest biological diversity country on the earth. So see here, these are the countries with larger number of angiospermic biodiversity. Next, so see here, species diversity in India, according to the Botanical Survey of India. So number of angiospermic species, number of angiosperms present 17,817 and gymnosperms, pteridophytes, bryophytes, lichens, fungi and algae. So which is compared with the worldwide species, number of species in the world. So see here, generally the angiosperms occupies 32.71% on the air in the India. So these are the so in the endemic, so in the table it also present, it also shows the endemic plant. That means they are the Indian origin, they are present in India. They are the Indian origin plants. How many endemic plants are present in all these? In angiosperms, 5,725 species are belongs to the endemic plants. In gymnosperms, only 10 species are belongs to the endemic plants. So this is the number of endemic plants in the Indian biodiversity. That is the Indian flora. Sorry, Indian flora. These are the flora, different types of flora present in India, according to the Botanical Survey of India. So the top 10 families in India. So see here, poaceae. You know very well that the poaceae is the monocot. It belongs to the monocot. Most of the grains, generally wheat, rice, which belongs to the poaceae, which occupies the top in the number of top in the families in India. So see here, likewise the Orchidaceae, it plays in the second place, Fabaceae, Asteraceae, Rubiaceae, Cyperaceae. So like all these are the top families of the India. Okay, top families is the plant families in India. So next we will read about the levels of biodiversity. So what is the level or types of biodiversity? Generally, there is a three levels of biodiversity. That is the genetic biodiversity, species diversity, and the ecological diversity. First, we will see the genetic biodiversity. So you know very well that before going to the genetic diversity, I will explain simple thing in simple words. So you know very well that there are different types of roses. The rose plant is same, but the flowers are in different color. Red rose, yellow rose, or pink rose. Like this, there are different types of roses. The plant is same, but they produce different types of flowers, different colors of flower. So likewise, what is the diversity means? So the genetic diversity is the variations at the levels of genes within a species. That means the species is the same, but the variation occurs at genetic level. The variations occur at the genetic level. So see here, for example, it is the mango season. This is the mango season. Generally, see here in Telugu state, generally we know about the Banginpalli, so Totapuri and Alfonso type. Generally, we will see in our regular markets. But you know one thing that you should remember one thing that in India there are thousand varieties are there. Thousand varieties of mangoes are there. So see here, likewise, rice contain 50,000 varieties. Okay, the pepper contain 500 varieties. So see here, genetic diversity means variation in the genetic level in a species, within a species. I will explain one another example. Let us see the example, another example. So see here, Ravulfia vomitosa, vomitoria, Ravulfia vomitoria. So see here, it is a medicinal plant. It is a medicinal plant, Ravulfia vomitoria, which produces alkaloid reserpine, which is used to treat hypertension, that is the blood pressure, and also used to treat snake bites. It is found in the Himalayas. Generally, the Rauwolfia vomitoria is a medicinal plant which is found in a Himalayan region. So see here, there are many varieties are present in the Himalayan region in the Rauwolfia vomitoria. In the species of Rauwolfia vomitoria, there are many variants are present in the Rauwolfia vomitoria in the Himalayan region at different levels of Himalayas. You know very well that the Himalayas are arranged at different levels. So see here, even though the plant is same, the species name is same, the chemical alkaloid is also same. So in the lower level of Himalayas, in the lower level of Himalayas, the producing alkaloid is which shows low potency. It shows low potency, that means low activity. So when we go to higher range of Himalayas, when we go towards the higher levels of Himalayas, the chemical become more potent or more active. The chemical become more potent or more active. So see here, this is due to the variations in the genetic level. That is the genetic variation. So according to the height of Himalayas, there is a change in the genes of the same species. Should remember one thing that the plant name is the same, but the chemical shows different potency at different levels of Himalayas. So this is called as the genetic diversity. Next, species diversity. The genetic diversity is also called as the alpha diversity. The species diversity is called as the beta diversity. So here we will compare the species and abundance of each species dwelling in a specific region. So see here, we are comparing somewhat smaller areas of species in the species diversity. So see here, here in the picture, what is there? So here in the picture, We are comparing Eastern gods with the Western gods. So see here the number of mammalian species, the number of mammalian species which present in the Eastern gods are more number when compared to the Western gods. That means the Eastern god shows more diversity in the mammalian species. So this is called as the species diversity. The next one is the ecosystem diversity. That is the gamma diversity. We may also call it as the gamma diversity. So see here, ecological diversity is the variation in the ecosystems found in a region or variations in ecosystem over the whole planet. That means here we compare some bigger areas. Here we compare some bigger areas. So see here, India has a different ecosystem. India has different ecosystems. So see here, it contains desert ecosystem, it contains aquatic ecosystem, it contains terrestrial ecosystem, and also different types of forest ecosystem. Deciduous forest are there, rainforest are there in India. That means the species, these are all constitute the ecosystem. These are all constitute a different ecosystem. Should remember that there is a variation in the desert ecosystem and the aquatic ecosystem, flora and fauna. That means the animals or plants which are living in the desert are different. Generally, we may found camel in the desert environment only. In the aquatic environment, generally we may find the fishes. That means there is a variation in the species of different ecosystems. So see here, when we compare India with Norway, when we compare India with Norway, so see here, the Norway is a Scandinavian country which contains grassland ecosystem. The most of the country is occupied by different types of grasslands. So see here, there is a different types of animals or plants are present in this grassland ecosystem. That means it is entirely different from our country. The ecosystem which is present in the Norway is completely different from the India. That means whatever the organisms or plants living in that environment, in these two environments are show difference. That means it is called as the ecological diversity. It is called as the ecological diversity or the gamma diversity. So these three comes under the levels of biodiversity. Let us we see the importance of biodiversity. What is the important role of the biodiversity? So see here, biodiversity provides goods for the most fundamental of all our needs, food, fuel, fibers, medicine, and shelters. Should remember that. So see here, the diversity in the nature. That means the diversity in the plants, the diversity in the animals, the diversity in the microorganisms will provide most of the fundamental things of our life. Food, shelter, medicine, fuel, all these comes from the nature only. So biodiversity provides a strong and broad genetic base for the plant breeding for development of high yielding and disease resistance crop varieties. So see here, there are cultivated types and wild types of plants are there. Generally, for suppose example, the paddy, we cultivate more than two species. So, but there are large number of wild varieties in the rice or paddy. These wild varieties will live in different environment. They have the pest resistant and drought resistant and pest resistant, drought resistant genes, or the stress salt resistant genes. They are present. So see here, if we adopt, if we inculcate, or if we add these useful characters in our cultivated plants, they will become very useful. That means with the biodiversity provides a strong or genetic base, broad genetic base for plant breeding and development of high yielding and disease resistant crop varieties. So see here, ecosystems clean our air and water, provide pollinators for our crops and helps in the control of disease. Generally, pollinators means the bees play important role in the pollination. 70% of the pollination is carried out through the insects, especially bees. If there is no bees, the crop yield will become low. Should remember this point. If there is no bees, the crop yield become low. Any crop, whatever it may be. Ecosystem also play a major role in stabilizing our climate and protecting us from the floods and droughts. The variety of life on the earth provide recreational, spiritual, and cultural value. So the diversity on the earth, which provides recreational, spiritual, and cultural values to societies around the world. You know very well that man came from the forest. So ancient men generally they live in the forest. So it provides the diversity provides recreational. Recreational means generally we will visit different types of national parks, forest in the weekends or in the holidays. Why? Because to overcome stress. So see here also spiritual and cultural values. Spiritual means generally the tribes or generally a great example is the Samakasarala Machatara. In that we will worship the nature. We will worship the nature as a god. And the cultural value means so the best example is Batkama Pandaga. Generally, we will worship flowers, which is restricted. This festival is restricted to the Telangana area only. That means it is a cultural value of the biodiversity. It is the cultural value of the biodiversity. Next, so see here importance of biodiversity. Biodiversity is of vital importance to humankind from many points of view. As we discussed earlier, diversity is essential for proper functioning and food chain in an ecosystem. Let us we see the what is the food chain. So as we explained in the first of this class, that is the snakes and rats. The snakes and rats which are present in the same food chain. So see here, Also, first, that is the food chain means the grass. Generally, the grass eaten by the animals, that is the herbivorous animals. So the plants are eaten by carnivorous animals. So it is a food chain. That means the energy is transferring from one level to another level in the food chain. So this is the importance of biodiversity to maintaining the food chain, proper functioning and maintaining of food chain in the ecosystem. Biodiversity provides the basic material for food, clothing, medicine, housing, and major industries. So see here, all are depend on the biodiversity. All these things are depend on the biodiversity. So it is. So see here, it is of scientific importance for protecting and maintaining the soil and regulate the climate. So the biodiversity has importance in the protecting of the soil, maintaining of the soil, meaning, so see here what that means. So generally the soil bacteria absorb nitrogen. Generally the plants are unable to absorb the nitrogen, even though 70% of the nitrogen present in the earth, sorry, in the environment, the plants are unable to absorb. The rhizobium bacteria and other microorganisms which participate in the nitrogen cycle will they will form or they will absorb atmospheric nitrogen into plant absorbable nitrogen. So this is the importance of microorganisms diversity. The microorganisms diversity present in the earth. So see here different aspect or importance of biodiversity as a food and grains. So see here as the aesthetic, as the beauty also. So see here different types of the or made different types of these are the showcase items made by the different types of plant products, different types of plant products. So the different types of grains. Okay, so this is the importance of biodiversity. So next, ecosystem services. So what are the ecosystem services rendered by the biodiversity? Let's see the protection of water resources, the protection of water resources, the soil formation and protection, the nutrient storage and recycling. Generally, recycling means the carbon, nitrogen, and other gases are recycled through the into the environment through different types of microorganisms. The pollution breakdown and absorption, CO2. Example is the CO2, which is absorbed by the green plants and the oxygen is released into the environment. If there is no plant, the accumulation of CO2 will increase in the plant, in the environment, which will lead to the greenhouse effect. That means the increasing temperatures on the earth. So which will show the drastic effects, the floods. Okay, so all the natural calamities will arise due to the imbalance of the carbon dioxide cycle in the environment or accumulation of carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. Generally, these are released in the industries. These gases are released in the industries due to the production of different types of products. So the the ecosystem will control this type of pollution. So contribution to the climate stability. maintenance of ecosystem, recovery from unpredictable events, abundant oxygen generation. You know very well that the Amazon forest are called as the lungs of the earth. So most of the oxygen generally produced in these forests. Biological resources, food production, medicinal resources, and pharmaceutical drugs. Wood product. We will discuss in deeply about the what are the medical resources and pharmaceutical drugs in our next slides. So let's we see continue the what are the ecosystem services. So ornamental plants, breeding stocks, and population reservoirs, future resources, and diversity in green species and ecosystem, diversity in the genes in species and ecosystem, social benefits, research and educational monitoring, recreation and tourism, cultural values, all as we already discussed about all these. Next, we will see. So see here, a very important point is here. You should note that a plant which lives for 50 years, a plant which lives for 50 years will produce the services of the 33 lakhs, which will produce the services of, which will produce the services which are valued for 33 lakhs. We will see what are those services. The major is the production of oxygen, that is the 5.3 lakh worth of the oxygen, recycle 6.4 lakh worth of the soil fertility. So you know very well that with the help of the microorganism, facilitate 6.4 lakh worth of the soil erosion, which control the plants control the soil erosion, create 10.5 lakh worth of air pollution control and provides. So see here, this is very much important by absorbing carbon dioxide, which produce, which controls pollution. The worth, if we estimated in rupees, the worth of the one plant which lives for 50 years will control 10.5 lakh worth of the air pollution. So it gives shelter to the birds, which worth of the 5.3 lakhs. Besides all these services, which provides fruits and flowers. You know the very value of these fruits and flowers. So totally there is a 33 lakh worth of services are rendered by the plant, a plant which lives for 50 years. So generally blindly, nowadays what we are doing, we are cutting the trees. So see here, we are just simply will cut the trees. That means how much all these services are we are losing from the environment. Should remember that whenever you want to cut the plant, you should keep two plants at that place and maintain those two plants. Okay, so they will give very much value in all these aspects, just we have seen in the previous slides. So the plants have much value. So we have to just try to don't cut the trees at any circumstances. At least you have to translocate the tree, translocate the tree. In the modern technology, it is possible to transfer these trees from one place to another place without cutting. So we have to improve such technologies to translocation plants from one place to another place, especially during the road widening. We will lose most of the trees. Just we have seen the worth of the trees. So you don't go to cut the trees. So this is the market sectors. These are the market sectors generally. So see here, generally they depend on the biodiversity. That means, so see here, all the base for these industries is the product of the nature. That means the biodiversity. So see here, either it may be plant origin, either it may be animal origin, either it may be microorganism origin. So all these comes under the biodiversity. So these sectors, the pharmaceutical sector, biotechnological sector, agricultural sector, botanical and food and beverage sector, the personal care sector and the food product sector. So see here, they depend. So see here, how much they depend on the biodiversity. How much they depend on the biodiversity. So without the biodiversity, these industries are nothing. These sectors are nothing. There is no food. There is no medicine. There is no anything for mankind. Next, we will see. So annual market for some product derived from the genetic resources. So genetic resources means generally, I will explain a simple example. I will explain with a simple example. Generally, insulin nowadays, the insulin is very cheap because it is uh, extracting from the bacterial species E. coli. Before that, the insulin is extracted from the pancreas of pig. It is so costly. Nowadays, due to the different food habits, the diabetic patients are improving. The cost of the insulin injection or tablet is getting down. This is due to the recombinant DNA technology. That means we have transferred the insulin producing genes into the E. coli bacteria, which produce large quantities of insulin in economic values. So see here, these are the industries which depends on the genetic resources, pharmaceutical. So how range is also here given, low range, high range. How much they depend on the biodiversity. So see here, pharmaceutical industries, botanical medicines, agriculture produce, ornamental and horticulture, crop protection, biotechnology, especially in the healthcare sector and in the agriculture sector. Agriculture sector means, so the very well that the BT cotton. Okay, BT cotton is also genetically modified cotton. The personal care and cosmetics. So these are the financial value of biodiversity, the products which are derived from the genetic resources. Okay, genetic resources using recombinant DNA technology. So let us we discuss about the forest. So in the biodiversity, most of the biodiversity we may found in the forest. So see here, forest generally they serve as the lungs of our planet. Just I have given an example, that is the Brazil. So they cover one third of all land area and home for the 80% of terrestrial biodiversity. Generally, the plants or resources for the biodiversity, reservoirs for the biodiversity, we may find different types of plants, different types of animals, and different types of microorganisms in the forest. So see here, when compare, so they occupy 30, even though they occupy 30% of the planet Earth, they contain 80% of the terrestrial biodiversity. They are crucial for addressing a multitude of sustainable development of the imperatives, from poverty eradication to food security, from mitigating and adapting to climate change to the reducing disaster risk. In all these aspects, the forest play important role, that is in the eradication of poverty, in the sustainable development, in the food security, in mitigating the climate change problems. The forest generally plays an important role. It is estimated that 1.6 billion people depend on forest for food, fuel, shelter, and income. Till date, 1.6 billion people depend on forest for their food, fuel, and shelter and income. The WHO estimate that between 65 and 80% of people rely on medicine derived from the forest as their primary form of healthcare. Till date, 65 to 80% of the people generally they use forest-based medicines. That is the generally we may call it as the Ayurveda. Okay, generally we may call it as the herbal drugs or Ayurveda. So this is the importance of the forest. We will see the other importance. So the forest provides essential economic safety nets for a significant number of the world's poor. So the roundwood production, wood processing, and the pulp and paper industries account for nearly 1% of global gross domestic product. Generally, the pulp is used, which is extracted from the different plant stems, which is utilized in the paper industry. The most of the pulp is produced from the forest. So non-monetary benefits from the forest, such as the water, energy, shelter, and medicine, are estimated to be 2 to 3 times as great. So we will not count these values. So here, the such as water, energy, shelter, and medicine are estimated to be 2 to 3 times as greater than the what we expect. So see here, this picture, forest catchments. The forested catchment area supply the 3 quarters of fresh water, which is essential for the agriculture, industry, energy supply, and domestic use. So the fresh water, fresh air. So see here, generally the water which came from the catchment areas of forest, catchment area of the air, the water which came from catchment areas of forest, which is very valuable. So we can see the economic potential of biodiversity. Biological diversity includes the many species of wild plants and animals that have significant economical potential but currently undiscovered. As we explained earlier in the first of the slideshow, I have explained there is a much scope for the biodiversity to identify. There are expected 7 million species. Okay, so yet we have expected 1.5 million species. So see here, there is a much larger scope. In this, so in the right side, you may see that wild rice, generally, you know rice very well, or I just said we may call generally we cultivate. So there are generally we may cultivate 2 species of oryza. So, but the genus of oryza includes about another 20 other species are there. That means they are in wild. They are in wild status. That means yet we have to adopt these varieties for the cultivation, which give proper food security. Generally, the wild plants generally they grow in different habitats. The wild plants generally they grow in different habitats without any proper care of the human. They contain different types of, as we discussed earlier, pest resistant and different types of drought resistant and salt resistant genes are present in there. That's why they are existing in hot conditions. So there is a great potential. There is a great potential to convert more significant or more useful characters into the cultivated varieties from these wild varieties. So see here in this large point, the biodiversity provides a strong and broad genetic base for the plant breeding for development of high yielding and disease resistant varieties. So as we explained just before, now I am explained. So whatever the resistance the wild plants contains, they act as a reservoir for the genetic resources. The wild plant generally they act as a reservoir for the genetic resources. If we convert, if we adopt these, if we adopt these into our, if we adopt these characters into our